You said you've lived in West Sacramento for 16 years.
Yes.
What brought you to town? Just curious.
My wife. She's been a lifelong resident here. I have had friends here all my life. Oscar Villegas, who's the city council member. I've known him since high school, so I know. And I've had other friends that lived here, and in fact, I had friends that lived here. But it wasn't until I met my wife. Well, I've known her a long time, but I met her and we've got together since 1992. And I've sort of been here since about that amount of time, but there's people watching, so I wasn't here officially until like 1996, when we married. So, but I've been here for that long. And so when I married her, I married the city too. It's been we love it here. The kids love it here. And so we're trying to create a community. We do so much because we want our girls we're leaving this for them, and we want them to see how much we're working to make it better. So when they have opportunities to come back from college, live here, have opportunities here, and try to make it better for the next generation. That is important to us.
And you mentioned that there are fiscal constraints. We've lost some redevelopment funds
Yes.
to build our infrastructure. So those are some challenges that the city's facing. And yet we still have yet to maintain the well-being of the residents here in West Sacramento. So we want to continue to improve, as you mentioned, be
Yeah.
ready for permits and stuff. Can you elaborate a little more on what else we need to do?
And just to restate your questions, from trying to care for this just went dead. It's probably still recording, but no, I'm not, maybe I understand your question.
So we have some fiscal constraints, we've lost some funding.
Right.
So those are challenges that we have, that the city has to face to maintain, the lives and the well-being of the
Right.
residents here.
Right.
I think you mentioned being on the planning commission, economic development, all of those different things. But you also mentioned that we're in a recession.
Yes.
Given that we're in a recession, and yet one of the things that the council wants to do, I believe, is improve, to use a cliche, the quality of life in West Sacramento, and is doing that.
Yes.
In the last few years with the different council members
Right.
doing that well. There are so many constraints in terms of
Absolutely.
funding. How can you still have an effect on the lives of West Sacramentans as a council member? Or better yet, how are you going to be able to keep this movement going on with these dwindling resources?
Well, I think there's a couple of questions that you're asking, so let me take one of them, which I think I heard first, because I think what the constraints are probably hurting us is that we've probably had to cut back on programs. I'm familiar with one. I'm on the board for the elderly nutrition program, and there's going to be cuts that impact our organization. Now, that organization serves the elderly who can't be mobile or who can't get a nutritious meal. That's the whole mission of our program. Well, understanding those cuts were coming, I think one of the reasons I got involved is because we're going to have to engage nonprofits and individuals to be more involved in that community. It's not a matter of you can't go to City Hall anymore and bang on for your council members to say we need more money, because it's just frankly not there. So we're going to have to engage other people to get more involved. I think this is actually the time for more volunteerism, engaging your community, because there's a lot of people at risk in this community. I'm experienced with one through elderly nutrition. We see others in the school district and others, small businesses. We're going to have to get people to go out there and help. I think that's, again, council members just don't sit up there. It shouldn't be up there just to pull votes and show up at the ribbon cuttings. I mean, I think there's an expectation that we go out in our community, and if the cause is right, if there's people at risk, then I'm willing to go knock on doors and say, hey, business, you're doing well. It's time maybe you step up and help this other business or this other cause, because we need the help. The city can't do it all on its own anymore. So I think that's one of the things we can do, how we're going to do it. I mean, certainly we're going to try, at least I will try, to keep those funds there, because they really, especially on the at-risk program, I'm really concerned about that for the youth, because they might become disengaged because of unemployment so high. But we've got to stay engaged with them. We've got to put more effort into them. If it can't come from the Treasury, it's got to come through time and talent. And I think that's where we got to make it up, and we've got to push other community members to do that. I think the other question you were asking is about how do we keep this momentum going. You know, we have some great infrastructure projects going in on West Capitol Avenue. We have, you know, they approved a major project on the riverfront last night, which is the culmination of a lot of plans and a lot of things. I think the thing to keep in mind is that most of West Sacramento is planned for, or, you know, the people who started the city 25 years ago now, they had an idea where we were going, a vision for it. And so where we're at today, where I've been the last 10 years, has been a steward of that and sort of furthering the vision of it. And so it's really kind of the rubber meets the road in various aspects of it. So the work now is implementation. And the work now is a little bit more back on the time, talent, and treasury. The treasury may not be there. We've got to go make the time to go find other sources. I think the city's been super successful going out and finding federal grants, state grants, to get this stuff going. And we have things going on that nobody else does. Well, no time to rest on our laurels. I don't plan on election day, taking a rest, going on a vacation, being done. It's time to get to work. And we've got to go out and continue finding that, because I think those opportunities will still be there. And more cities are starting to catch up with us. We're way ahead of them on a lot of fronts, but we've got to take advantage of this while the time is there. And then when the recession comes back, then we can kind of sustain ourselves for a while. So I think that's the strategy we need to go forward with.